The story of this anime revolves around a young girl named Famicia who escapes from her village. This girl was a monster tamer, but she lacks any stars in her skills. As a result, everyone in her village, including their leader, is searching for her to kill her. Fearing for her life, Famicia decides to escape the village and vows to make them pay for what they did to her. The episode begins on a dark night in a forest, with Famicia fleeing from the men of her village, who are determined to kill her. They see her as a potential disaster because she lacks stars in her magical abilities. The villagers believe that those without stars shouldn't exist in their world. Famicia continues running through the forest until sunrise, where she stops at a particular spot marked with symbols on a tree. Famicia opens a hidden door in the forest floor, revealing a small underground space filled with bags. These bags were given to her by a witch possessing magical powers that allow anyone to store items of any size in them. Famicia puts various things in the bags, including magical books and poison bottles. She wears the bags and sets off to escape, haunted by the memories of being an unwanted child and rejected by the village. As hours pass and the sun rises on a beautiful day, Famicia finds herself in a lush green forest. She plays around, expressing her desire to have skills like running, hiding, and escaping. However, she realizes that having such skills wouldn't have changed her fate in her past life. She advises her to stop complaining and accept her circumstances if she wants to achieve something in life. Famicia decides to become strong and continues playing until she stumbles upon a landfill, sparking her excitement to explore its contents. In this place, Famicia finds many things, including numerous poison bottles and clothes, in good condition. She discovers a map inside one of the clothes, bringing her great joy as it will make her journey easier. She gathers all these items and puts them in her bag. However, Famicia is reminded once again that she is an unwanted child and no one desires her anymore. This realization saddens her deeply. Suddenly, she senses the presence of people in the vicinity. She hides and observes two individuals searching for her. One of them mentions that it's the perfect time to feed the gelatinous creatures. Famicia wonders if these creatures are cute, but senses that they are not. She overhears the men discussing her, highlighting that her only problem is figuring out which direction she escaped in. Upon hearing this, Famicia quickly flees the area to avoid being seen, as they are still searching for her. While hiding among the trees, Famicia hears the men talking about the village leader, creating a commotion regarding her and offering a substantial reward for anyone who brings her head, regardless of whether she's alive or dead, so that revelation distresses Famicia, knowing that the village leader intends to kill her as well. She runs away from them until night falls, eventually finding refuge under a massive tree, where she sleeps. The next morning, Famicia wakes up and explores the forest. She walks by a beautiful lake and experiences a gust of wind. Staring up at many gelatinous creatures in her direction and sticking to her hands, she runs away and suddenly stumbles upon a distant location. Relieved to have escaped the gelatinous creatures, Famicia discovers a wound on her hand. She applies the old poison bottle to it, but realizes it's not enough. Fortunately, another bottle appears, and she successfully heals her wound. Afterwards, Famicia continues her journey and finds the beautiful lake again. Overcome with a sense of wonder, she decides to undress and swim in it, feeling a wonderful sensation she had never experienced before. She recalls the advice of the witch to be strong and determined, prompting her to cut her hair and disguise herself as a boy to travel safely. She chooses the name Ivy to replace the name given to her by her father, symbolizing resilience. Like the plant that grows even if stepped on, Ivy contemplates her uncertain future, realizing that everyone else in life has goals. Unlike just afterward, when Ivy explores the forest and senses something within it, she looks at the flowers and finds a small, gelatinous creature standing on one of them.
Now that's cute.
Ivy searches for it in the book she carries and discovers that it's not part of the known monster species. It's a rare, unnamed gelatinous creature. She decides to give it a name and continues reading, finding out that it's called the frail gel or the dispersing gel. Ivy understands that it is indeed weak, just like her, but she doesn't want to label it as weak. She decides to observe it with a different name. As the wind blows, the gelatinous creature floats with it. Due to its extreme weakness, it eventually falls on its back. Unable to get up, Ivy realizes that it is exceptionally fragile, and the book confirms that it might disappear with a simple touch or vanish if a strong storm blows away the concern for the frail gel. Ivy rushes to rescue it, fearing that strong winds might make it vanish. She manages to save it before it perishes. As the sun sets, Ivy talks to the frail gal, expressing her frustration about the unfairness of life. She explains the system in their village, where people receive their skills at the age of 5, and the number of stars determines the skill strength. Ivy reveals her own skill, having received a skill called monster taming with no stars. She shares her inability to even tame small animals due to the lack of stars, and when everyone discovered her starless skill, their attitudes towards her changed, including her parents. Ivy sadly recounts the loss of her home, family, and everything she once had, but she finds solace in the fact that she still possesses memories of her past life. She mentions that she's a human reborn in a different world and carries memories that, unfortunately, are not useful in her current situation. Sometimes these memories whisper things she can't comprehend in her ear. Then Ivy falls silent for a moment and tells him that another person treated her kindly and that she is a sorceress. The sorceress gave her many different books and taught her various things. She gave her that old magical bag, but its performance is not of the same quality. She can contain many things, and everything inside becomes lighter, so it is very useful for her as it helped her survive in this forest. Then she adds tearfully that the sorceress recently passed away, leaving her alone in this world. No one looks at her, and the people in the village try to kill her, despite her not doing anything and being unable to do anything. All of this is because she was born without stars. She doesn't know that not having stars is considered so bad to the extent that people want to harm her. She then tells the little slime that he is like her, born to disappear within a day. This world is unfair, and Ivy continues to share a lot with the little slime as she listens without anger. She is very happy to have met him, considering him her first and last friend, and wanting him to stay with her until the end. Ivy goes to sleep until morning, waking up and looking in front of her to talk to the slime, but he's not there. She searches for him, hearing something might have happened to him, and tears stream down her face as she searches, thinking he might be dead. Now she is alone again, just like before, and Ivy cries a lot about it. Then she heads towards her bag to take out the map, planning to follow the sorceress's advice to go to the royal capital. When she takes out the map, she feels something inside, and to her joy, it's the little slime. Ivy is overjoyed to see him and realizes that what she read about disappearing in a day was a lie. She takes him under a tree and looks in the book for instructions on how to tame monsters. She discovers that to tame any monster, she must transfer a small amount of magical energy to the monster first. If the monster accepts it, a mark appears on its face, indicating success. Ivy is afraid to do this because she is a tamer without stars. However, she gathers her strength and tames the little slime.
It accepted my magic, so I have to name it. Maybe owl? Or blue? Because of its color? It matches the sky.
Ivy uses her power to successfully tame him and names him Sora. Slime is very happy playing with her, and Ivy, at this moment, tells him her name. Several days later, we see Ivy in the forest, attempting to hunt a small mouse. She succeeds in catching it and proceeds to slaughter it, taking it with her in her bag to cook its meat. Ivy then opens her map and examines it as she is trying to reach a town near the capital of this kingdom, as the sorceress instructed her. The sorceress told her that she should go there, and then told Gel about her origin in the village of Latomi. She also pointed out the location of the royal capital, which is not on the map. It is on the other side of her village, so she first heads to her hometown to reach the capital. At this time, strong winds arise that would have blown away the slime. but Ivy manages to hold on to it. At the last moment, Ivy talks to Sora, saying that he needs to grow up so that he doesn't remain so lightweight, as he is a rare slime and she doesn't want to lose him. While speaking with Sora, she senses something approaching, takes Sora, and runs away to escape a monster. Ivy hides above a tree, discovering a massive swarm of giant ants, a type of ferocious monster. They continue on their way without noticing her. Afterward, Ivy descends from the tree, and Sora comes out, but she tries to preserve him, unsure when she might encounter fierce monsters. Ivy then senses something on her face and finds a small wound caused by a branch. So at this moment, she takes out antidote bottles to treat the wound before it gets infected. Ivy uses the antidote, but it runs out, so she decides to buy more and roams the forest since she knows there is a village nearby. If she follows this path, Ivy walks along this path and finds posters hanging on trees with her picture and specifications. Anyone who finds her will receive a reward of 500 gold coins. Ivy becomes very upset, not understanding why they are offering such a large sum for her when she hasn't done anything. Just in anger, she removes those posters from the trees and cuts them. After some time, Ivy reaches the village. Before entering, she puts the slime in her bag so no one sees it. Ivy enters the village in disguise, discovering that they use magic in all their activities. She wishes she could use magic as well. Ivy finds children playing together. The boy has the skill of speed, and his sister lacks in a skill. Ivy wandered around the village and came across the bakery. She got very excited because it had been a long time since she had eaten any kind of bread. However, she didn't care much because she didn't have any money. She continued on her way and found a butcher. She thought about selling the meat she had caught and lingered around the butcher. The butcher noticed her and asked what she wanted. She told him that she had things to sell, and the butcher agreed. Ivy took out the meat she had and was surprised that the butcher could smell that it was field mouse meat without seeing it. He explained that he had a heightened sense of smell and could distinguish senses. Ivy handed him the meat, and when he opened it, he found it to be very fresh and well prepared. He asked about the quantity, and Ivy showed him a large amount of field mouse meat. The butcher calculated the price, and it reached 100 pieces. Ivy was thrilled because she would finally have a lot of money to spend as she pleased. The butcher asked her to bring more meat if she haunted again, since everyone sought large prey and field mice were rarely brought to him. She left and went to the bakery to buy bread. There, she encountered a merchant who treated her as if she were a boy and asked about her identity. Ivy explained that she had relatives in the village and inquired about the quantity she could buy with 100 pieces. The merchant told her she could take everything in that basket. So Ivy bought a large amount of bread and happily ran off. She returned to the forest with her friends, the slime, and sat on a tree to enjoy the delicious bread, savoring the moment as it had been a long time since she last had such a treat. She asked the jelly for its opinion on the bread, but it didn't respond. Ivy understood that it didn't want the bread and proceeded to take out the items it usually consumed, were dissipating jelly creatures. The slime tried to explain, but Ivy couldn't understand. She took the slime and roamed the forest, hunting more field mice later. She decided to return to the butcher to sell the meat and earn money for more bread. On her way back, she found herself at landfill and discovered large doses of poison. Unsure if they were still usable, she took them with her in her bag, feeling excited. Meanwhile, the slime tried to dispose of some jelly bottles, surprising Ivy with its ability to do so. She offered him a bottle, but the slime refused, making her realize it could only dispose of the blue doses. Ivy left the slime with a bottle and went back to the village to sell more meat. She sold a significant amount of field mouse meat to the butcher, receiving 250 pieces in return. With the money, she bought bread and sweets from the merchant, expressing her gratitude. Ivy returned to her spot, went to the lake for a swim, and asked the slime if it wanted to join, but it declined, fearing it might drift away. Ivy comforted the jelly, then took out the poison bottles for it to consume. She also got a piece of bread for herself and happily ate it, appreciating the kindness of the villagers and hoping she could stay there forever. So the next day, Ivy wanders around the village and encounters many adventurers. One of them approaches her and starts talking to her about what they want. As Ivy looks at him, she realizes that he's the person she's been searching for. However, he doesn't recognize her because she is disguised as a boy. Another adventurer asks her about the magical bags she carries, making Ivy very afraid. She runs away from them, thankful that they didn't recognize her as familiar, and continues running until the butcher stops her. The butcher asked Ivy if she had caught any field mice. Ivy informs him that she didn't catch anything that day. The butcher tells her that some adventurers have passed through the village and bought all his dried meat, claiming they need it for their journey. He ran out of stock and asked Ivy to bring him more mice. Ivy agrees, and the butcher mentions that he'll raise the buying price for her. Ivy thanks him and hurries to the bakery. Ivy, get to the bakery. The baker asks Ivy if she wants bread for the day. Ivy declines, but the baker insists on giving her a piece of her favorite loaf for free. She asks Ivy to wait and eat it fresh without paying, as she'll have to eat it eventually. Ivy hesitates as she doesn't have money, but the baker insists she can pay later. Ivy thanks her, but upon seeing her reflection in the baker's eyes, she hastily leaves to avoid being recognized. At sunset, Ivy sits on her usual tree, crying and talking about the kind people in the village. She realizes she cannot stay there for long due to the presence of adventurers. She then extracts the slime and asks if there's a place for her. She wants reassurance. The girl sleeps sadly, and by morning she decides to leave the village. As Ivy walks, she consults her map, unsure if she's on the right path. The slime attempts to communicate, but Ivy doesn't understand. However, she senses it's hungry. She reaches a river with fruit trees and asks the Slimmel to try the fruit, but it refutes. Ivy insists that if it doesn't learn to eat everything, it won't grow. Suddenly, the tree changes color, and a large monster emerges, attacking Ivy. She runs away, injured, searching for antidotes, but can't find any. The slime stands on her wound, and Ivy doesn't know what it's doing. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about the weakest Tamer began a journey to pick up trash by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.